When the grid dies at noon and the temperature outside is 45 degrees Celsius, you have 6 hours to cool one room before heat stroke shuts down your organs. Not cool your house, cool one room. Here's how, using physics, reflection, and $40 in supplies without frying your brain or wasting the water you'll need to survive the week. Most people die trying the obvious solution, opening a window. That's how you lose. Grid collapses. Fans stop spinning mid-rotation like it just gave up on you personally. AC unit goes silent. You're sweating through a shirt you put on 10 minutes ago. Thermometer says 38 indoors and climbing. You have maybe 6 hours before heat stroke starts shutting down your organs. Except most people don't make it past 3 because they open every window in the house thinking fresh air helps. Fresh air at 45 degrees isn't fresh, it's an oven with better PR. After studying real heatwave deaths, one pattern shows up every time. The people who sealed their space survived, and the people who tried to ventilate cooked. I left a simple 72-hour heat protocol in the pinned comment. It's there if you want to go deeper. Here's how to survive when the grid dies and summer wants you dead. The math that keeps you alive. Your body sheds heat through sweat evaporation. That's the entire system. Sweat evaporates, skin cools, blood cools, organs survive. Except humidity above 60% stops evaporation cold. Sweat just sits there, rolling off you, doing nothing. That's called wet bulb temperature, and once it crosses 35 degrees, your body physically cannot cool itself no matter how much you sweat. Solution isn't generating more airflow. Solution is stopping heat gain and helping evaporation actually work. Every degree of radiant heat you block is one less degree your sweat has to fight. And physics doesn't care that you're uncomfortable. It cares about thermal equilibrium. Funny thing about equilibrium, your body and the room both want to reach the same temperature. One of you has to lose. Block before you cool. First 30 minutes after power dies, seal the room, not the house, the room. Pick the lowest, most interior room, basement if you have one, otherwise a windowless bathroom or closet. Heat rises and radiates through glass, so the room with the fewest windows and the lowest elevation wins by default. Cover every window with mylar or aluminum foil, shiny side out. This reflects up to 90% of solar radiation before it ever becomes heat inside your walls. Regular curtains block light, they don't block infrared. Foil does both. Close the door. Stuff a towel under the gap. Every degree of cool air you keep in is a degree you don't have to fight for later. Evaporative cooling, the heat battery in reverse. Hang a wet sheet in front of any airflow you have, even a hand fan works. As water evaporates off the fabric, it pulls heat from the air passing through it. This is the same principle that keeps you alive through sweating, just externalized. A wet sheet can drop the air passing through it by 5 to 10 degrees. Combine that with a sealed, foil-covered room, and you can hold indoor temperature 15 degrees below outdoor peak using nothing but water and fabric. Your neighbor with windows wide open is baking at 42 while you're sitting at 29, doing nothing but understanding condensation. This works, right up until your water runs out, which is why you fill every container in the house the moment power dies, not after you're already thirsty. Fans, the math everyone gets wrong. A fan doesn't cool air, it moves it. Above 35 degrees, a fan blowing directly on you actually speeds up dehydration without dropping your core temperature at all. You feel a breeze. You are not actually cooler. You're just losing water faster while thinking you're winning. Battery fans pointed at a bowl of ice, though, that's different. That's redirected evaporative cooling, and it can drop the air around you by several degrees for as long as the ice lasts. Doesn't matter that it's low tech. It's the difference between understanding thermodynamics and becoming a heat stroke statistic with a nice tan. What kills people who try running a generator to power an AC unit in a closed garage produces carbon monoxide. Doesn't matter that it's summer. The gas doesn't check the season. You go to sleep hoping for cool air and wake up not at all. Points for optimism, but you're still dead. Drinking ice-cold water fast when you're overheated shocks your stomach and can trigger vomiting, which accelerates dehydration exactly when you can't afford to lose fluid. Sip, don't chug. Your intestines aren't trying to kill you, but they will if you rush this. And opening every window for a cross breeze during peak heat just imports the exact temperature that's trying to cook you. Ventilation only works when outside is cooler than inside. At 45 degrees, opening a window is inviting the oven inside your house and calling it fresh air. The timeline: nobody survives ignorant. Hour 2, room hits 36 degrees. You're sweating heavily, drinking water, feeling manageable. This is the easy part. Everyone survives hour 2. Hour 4, room temperature 40 degrees. Sweating slows even though you're hotter because your body's running out of fluid to spare. Headache starts, muscle cramps in your legs. This is heat exhaustion, and it's your last warning before the real damage starts. Hour 6, room temperature 43 degrees. Core temperature past 40. Confusion sets in. You stop sweating altogether. Skin goes hot and dry, which sounds better than drenched, but means your cooling system just quit entirely. This is heat stroke. Organs start cooking. Brain function deteriorates. Without intervention, death follows within 1 to 2 hours. Your neighbor with the sealed, foiled, wet sheet room survives because he understood evaporation and radiation. Your other neighbor dies because he opened every window for fresh air and ran a fan directly on himself while dehydrating faster than he realized. You survive because you sealed one room, blocked radiant heat, and managed water intelligently instead of fighting physics with wishful thinking. The preparation nobody wants to hear. All of this requires acting in the first 30 minutes, not the third hour when you're already cooking. Mylar sheets, duct tape, extra sheets for wetting, filled water containers. Total cost around $40. Heat waves don't wait for you to figure this out. Grid dies, you have hours before this becomes irreversible. $40 in preparation versus heat stroke because you assumed the AC would always hum along in the background. Most people choose wrong because sealing a room in summer feels backwards until the grid fails and suddenly the backwards thing is the only thing keeping you alive. When the power dies at noon and the thermometer keeps climbing, you'll remember this. You'll remember I told you exactly what $40 buys you. You'll remember whether you bought it before or after you needed it. You'll remember hour 4 when the headache starts and your legs cramp. Hour 6 when you stop sweating and your skin goes hot and dry. After that, remembering stops being something you can do. Heat doesn't care what you meant to prepare. Physics doesn't negotiate with good intentions. And your cooked body won't care that you would have spent the $40 if you'd known. But you did know. You're watching this now. Seal the room. Or don't. Either way, thermodynamics doesn't change for you.